Hello grade 9 students. Welcome to another virtual class. I am Miss Madhu Vadke. We have already learned chapter 3 coordinate geometry. In today's video lesson we are going to revise this chapter and do some extra questions to test our skills. Coordinate geometry is a branch of mathematics that gives us a system or set of rules using which we can find the position of a point in a plane, and we can also plot a point in that plane. This system is called as Cartesian system, and the plane in which we plot the point is called as Cartesian plane. So a plane that is divided into 4 parts by drawing these two perpendicular lines is called as a Cartesian plane. The line which is horizontal is called the x-axis, and the line which is vertical is called the y-axis. These two lines are nothing but number lines. X-axis is a horizontal number line and y-axis is a vertical number line, and they intersect each other at the 0 of their number lines, and this point of intersection is called as origin. The x-axis is labeled as x dash x and the y-axis is labeled as y dash. OX and OY are the positive x-axis and positive y-axis respectively. OX dash is the negative x-axis and OY dash is the negative y-axis. So this plane, which is divided into 4 parts by drawing 2 axes, is called as Cartesian plane. So using some rules or system, we are going to find out the position of a point on this plane. So the 4 parts of this plane are given a name. Each part is called as a quadrant. And this is the first quadrant, this is second quadrant, this is third quadrant, and this is fourth quadrant. Consider a point P in this Cartesian plane. Now position of this point can be given by an ordered pair x comma y, where x is called the abscissa and y is called the ordinate, and x and y together are called as coordinates of point P. In this ordered pair, abscissa will always come first and then ordinate. So this is the order of writing the coordinates, and that is why we enclose these numbers inside a bracket and call this as an ordered pair. According to the Cartesian system, the x-coordinate is the perpendicular distance of point P from the y-axis, and y-coordinate is the perpendicular distance of this point from the x-axis. Also, if we change the order of the coordinates, then y comma x will correspond to some other point on this plane. So this implies that x comma y is not equal to y comma x. So a point that is in the first quadrant will have both coordinates positive, as the first quadrant is made using positive axis. A point that is in the second quadrant will have x coordinate negative and y coordinate positive, because it is made with negative x-axis and positive y-axis. Likewise, the third quadrant will have points such that both coordinates will be negative, as the x and y axis both are negative. And the fourth quadrant will have points such that the x coordinate is positive and y coordinate is negative. As the x axis is positive and the y axis is negative, that makes the fourth quadrant. Now we use the same system to plot the points on the Cartesian plane. So let's take an example. Plot point Q that has coordinates 6, 2. So this implies that the x coordinate is 6 and the y coordinate is 2. So from the origin you will move 6 units along the positive x-axis and reach here. And then from there we move 2 units along the positive y-axis and we reach here. So this point will be Q with coordinates 6, 2. Now if we have a point on the x-axis, let's say this point, then what will be its coordinates? A point that is on the x-axis will have its y coordinate 0 because we have not moved along the y direction at all. We only moved from the origin towards the negative x-axis to come to this point. So the coordinates of this point will be -4, 0. Similarly, if we have a point on the x-axis, let's say this one, then the x coordinate of this point will be 0 and the y coordinate will be 5. We will now test our understanding by answering these extra questions. Write the coordinates of points marked on the graph paper. Pause the video at this point and write down the coordinates for all these points quadrant wise. So you start with the first quadrant, then go to the second, third and fourth. Then you write the coordinates for points that are on the x-axis and then on the y-axis. After writing the coordinates for all the points, play the video to check your answer. So let's start from the first quadrant. To write down the x coordinate and the y coordinate for point Q, we will draw perpendicular lines from point Q to the y-axis and to the x-axis. So point Q is 7 units from the y-axis and it is 6 units from the x-axis. So the coordinates of point Q will be 7, 6. The x coordinate is the perpendicular distance from the y-axis and y coordinate is the perpendicular distance from the x-axis. Point A is 3 units from the y-axis and 1 unit from the x-axis. So the coordinates of point A will be 3, 1. Let's move to the second quadrant. Perpendicular distance of E from the y-axis is -4 and its perpendicular distance from the x-axis is 3 units. So the coordinates of point E will be -4, 3. Let's move to the third quadrant. Perpendicular distance of point F from the y-axis is -2 and its perpendicular distance from the x-axis is -4. So the coordinates of point F will be -2, -4. Now move to the fourth quadrant. Perpendicular distance of point P from the y-axis is 7 units and its perpendicular distance from the x-axis is -3 units. So the coordinates of point P are 7, -3. For point H, its perpendicular distance from the y-axis is 3 units and its perpendicular distance from the x-axis is minus 6 units. So the coordinates of this point will be 3, minus 6. Now we will mark the points that are on the x-axis. So here we have point D. A point which is on the x-axis will have its y coordinate 0. So from the origin you move minus 3 units on the negative x-axis. So this point D will have minus 3, 0 as its coordinates. Point B is on the positive side of the x-axis. So its coordinates will be 6, 0 as it is 6 units along the positive x-axis and the y coordinate will be 0. Let's find the coordinates of points that are on the y-axis. So we have this point C which is on the positive side of the y-axis. You have to move 6 units to reach this point along the y-axis. A point that is on the y-axis will have its x coordinate 0. So the coordinates of point C will be 0, 6. Point G is on the negative y-axis, 5 units from the origin. So the coordinates of this point G will be 0, minus 5. Next question is an objective type of question where options are given. You have to choose the correct answer. Now again, I want you to pause the video and answer these questions on your own. After you have done that, play the video to check your answers. Mark the correct alternative in each of the following. The point of intersection of the coordinate axis. This axis stands for plural of the axis, AXIS, and coordinate axes are x and y axis. So the point of intersection of x and y axis will be the origin. The abscissa and ordinate of the origin are 0, 0. We know that the x and y axis are number lines that intersect at the 0 of the number line. So at that point of intersection, the x and y coordinates both will be 0. Third question, the measure of angle between the coordinate axis is, since the x and y axes are intersecting at right angles, the angle between these two axes will be 90 degrees. Fourth question, a point whose abscissa and ordinate are 2 and minus 5 respectively lies in. This point is 2, minus 5. This means that we need a positive x-axis and a negative y-axis to read this point. And these two axes make the fourth quadrant. Fifth question, points minus 4, 0 and 7, 0 lie on, look at the coordinates of these 2 points. The y coordinate is 0. A point that has y coordinate 0 will always lie on the x-axis. So correct option is A. Question number 6. The ordinate of any point on x-axis is, a point that lies on the x-axis has its y coordinate 0 and the y coordinate is called as ordinate. So the ordinate will be 0. So the correct option is A. Question number 7. The abscissa of any point on the y-axis. A point that is on the y-axis will have its x coordinate 0 and the x coordinate is called as abscissa. So it is going to be 0. So option A is the correct answer. That is all in today's video lesson. We will continue with these extra questions in the next class. Goodbye.